Yeah, welcome and happy 4th of July, everyone. Before I jump into today's conversation, I'm excited that we have our guests from the Basque region of Spain here this morning. We've got a crew living with Eastman families. You all from the Basque country don't have to raise your hands or anything, but can we put our hands together and just welcome them to our Eastman family? We'll spend the month of July just enjoying Boise and enjoying being in community together, and we're looking forward to that. And so thank you for opening your hearts and welcoming them. We're going to start today's conversation a little differently. I was deceived significantly a few years back. I got a family of 8 now, but at the time as a family of 7. My oldest is married, and we're going on a vacation from the West Coast to the East Coast. And so I got us a screaming, well, you probably know this, right? Boise, it's quite difficult to get to the East Coast. You got to fly like to Seattle or Atlanta or Minneapolis or Phoenix. So we worked it out that we could drive to San Francisco, like get off work, load the car, drive to San Francisco, meet my son who's married in San Francisco, get on a plane a few hours later and fly direct across the country to the East Coast. And it was super cheap, like a couple $100 a ticket on Frontier Airlines. If you work for Frontier Airlines, I apologize for what comes next. So we get in, a couple weeks before this trip, big family get together. Emily and I are so excited. I get an email from Frontier Airlines. We're so sorry your flight's changed from a direct flight to like a 16-hour flight with a long layover. And I'm like, this is unacceptable. I bought these tickets. All my consumer rights started to, which I didn't have any, but they started to bubble up. And so I immediately call Frontier Airlines. I Google Frontier Airlines customer service. At the time, in 2023, they didn't have a phone number. So I get a phone number from Frontier Airlines. I call them up right away, and the nice person says, travel desk, how can I help you? And I'm like, yeah, you totally messed up my flight. Can we work on this? They say, oh, Mr. DeVitas, I need your name, I need your flight locator number. I'm so sorry, your seats have been overbooked. 7 of us. Going on vacation, we've got accommodations, we can't miss this flight, right? So I'm kind of panicking. I say, well, you can't do that to us. You got to get us there somehow. And they go, well, maybe we can make this work. I don't know, how long was it, Emily? 2 hours later? I'm thinking I'm like the father of this family solving the problem, right? I'm on the phone with this nice person who's helping me. They go, we can buy you tickets from a consolidator for $12,000. And I go, what? I'm not doing that, but I'm still I'm still all in on this. Emily's like, who are you talking to? I'm like, oh, Frontier Airlines, I'll handle this. It's okay. So, all right. Then I negotiate. We work back and forth. We get it down to like $1,200. I go, this is ridiculous. I had to pay $1,200 more for my tickets because they oversold them. I'm never flying Frontier again. Here's the thing. I give my credit card number, and I get an email from PCM Travel out of India. I have not been talking to Frontier Airlines at any point. They just bought a phone number, put it on Google search as Frontier Airlines, and then they answer the phone, reservation desk or travel desk. I thought he was so nice and so friendly, and I'm like, $1,200, he's doing us a favor. And all of a sudden it hit me. I have been deceived. This whole time I thought I was like, it was one thing, it was another. Yeah, it ever happened to you? You ever been in a situation, like maybe it was something like that or a different situation, but we do a question on the morning. I want to ask you that question right now. Like, have you ever believed something only to discover it wasn't what you thought it was? You were deceived. You get 1 minute, turn to your neighbor, say hello, chat about a time this happened to you, and we'll be back. Take Take 10 seconds. Very, very interesting interactions, especially from some of the couples. One couple who I won't name, one of them was like, I'm really good at being deceived. So good honesty, good self-awareness. We're going to jump in. Here's how we're going to tackle this whole conversation about practicing the way, following the way of Jesus. Being with Jesus, being like Jesus, doing as Jesus would do. And if you're not a follower of Jesus or you're not particularly religious, we're glad you're here today. We hope that you feel like you can explore, ask your questions, be on your journey in this place. But we're going to take a generosity look as a habit of Jesus from the lens of gratitude. Now, we're going to call this little sub-series within Practicing the Way, the gratitude economy. And if you've been around church at any point in your life, you're probably like, oh, I see it, dollar signs, coins, this is a money talk. Gratitude includes money. Generosity always includes like our tangible resources. We'll get there, but that's not actually where we're starting. All right, we want to start at a different place. In this conversation, we want to kind of like take an angle or a look at our hearts and say, you know what? It's not about money. It's about value. It's about living a life of value. It's about figuring out, am I living a life that has worth to me and to the people around me? And here's the thing. Gratitude can absolutely flip the economy inside of your heart. It can save you from being deceived. And that's kind of where we're going to start today. I don't want to be deceived. And if I want something for you, I don't want you to be deceived. I mean, wouldn't that be great if that was kind of what we could have for each other? That we weren't deceived. We were clear-headed and we were clear-hearted about things. And I do have a goal in this series. I would love something we say over the next 5 weeks to be meaningful enough that you look and go, there's someone in my life who needs to hear this. Someone in my life who would benefit from this conversation. And you can share it with them or you can invite. I'd love to, because this gratitude conversation I think it's worth spreading as we get into it. Because human beings, all people, here's our reality. We can all be deceived, right? Now, there's always a section of us, and sometimes I'm in this group who would say, yeah, like, my spouse can be deceived. My kids can be deceived. My siblings can be deceived. My roommates often deceived. My coworkers can be deceived, but not me. I'm never deceived. And I think you're my favorite group of people because we're most deceived when we're convinced we're not, right? It's kind of the dynamic. Like, deception thrives the moment you think you're not being deceived. Now, this is kind of high-level categories, but I made a list of like human experiences about ways we might not think we're deceived, but we are. Identity and self-worth. Pretty easy place to be deceived. Like, I am the sum of what I do or what I own or what other people think about me or affirm about me. That gives me worth. Relationships, easy to be deceived in those. If this was real love, it wouldn't be hard work. It wouldn't require sacrifice and forgiveness. They would never hurt me. Or, how about this one? I can change them if I just stay in this long enough and work hard enough. Eventually, I can change them. I have that kind of power to change another person. A lot of times we're deceived when we go down that path. Think about faith. If God was real and he was good, then my life would go smooth. My life would be the way I want it to be. Or money and security. When I finally have enough zeros in my savings account, or my investments are compounding enough, or my raise or my bonus is finally big enough, then I'll feel safe. You remember, those of you who are old enough, remember it happened in 2008? A whole lot of people felt really, really safe financially. And then they felt really, really afraid and vulnerable financially. Like, it just wasn't real. This idea that we're not being deceived. I put a bunch more on here. I kind of went down a list. This one I liked. Okay, just because I'm a pastor, right? Church. Like, church should meet, like, from the music to the message to the lobby. Everything should satisfy all of my preferences. If not, I'll find a new one. I thought, well, that's a hard one. I just tell you, I mean, Eastwind does not satisfy all my preferences. I have to come here all the time. It's my job, okay? But if you think about, even that can have, this, like, consumer mindset can enter into our faith. And it can short circuit the deep hard work of community that we get to do. How about, like, anxiety? If I plan well enough and I have enough control over the outcomes in my life, then my anxiety will go away. And control is often deception. I could go on. There's a lot of things you could fill in as well, but I think our bottom line is this. Deception is believing something is true when it's not. Like that I'm talking to Frontier Airlines and they're helping me solve my flight issue when I'm actually not talking to Frontier Airlines and they're ripping me off. That's how deception plays out. And the interesting thing is, it's like, so when you trust a lie like it's a truth, then you can end up blaming your circumstances, blaming your past, blaming your friends, your relationships, blaming your boss or your company. We're going to talk about James today out of the Bible. James doesn't let us off the hook that easily. And we're going to take just a snapshot of what James says in this short letter in the New Testament. Now, these letters are called pastoral letters. It means James is writing them from like a friendly heart to a group of Christians living in the turn of the century, followers of Jesus, right? People who believe in the resurrection. He's writing to them saying, this is what it means to follow Jesus. But you've got to know this about James. A lot of you do. James is the half-brother of Jesus. So when Jesus lived, James was his brother. Raise your hand if you have a sibling, real quick, a brother or a sister. Okay, so hold that thought. We'll come back to that in just a second. James did not believe Jesus was God. Actually, like, you could put it this way, James wasn't buying what Jesus was selling. It was so bad that at one point Jesus had a crowd around him and he was teaching them, and James and some of his siblings were like, James, or Jesus, hey, come here. Like, man, you got to come home because you're embarrassing the family right now, and it sounds like you're out of your mind. That was what James said, the James whose letter we're going to read today. So what happened to James? Well, Jesus was arrested. He claimed he was God, and he claimed that he would die to take away the sin of the world. He was arrested. He was crucified, publicly, brutally put to death. And he was buried and dead, as we all know happens at a point in all of our lives. James knew all of that happened. So what changed? In 1 Corinthians, the letter to the church in Corinth, we're told that the resurrected Jesus met his brother James and said, James, you missed it the whole time. I was exactly who I said I was. And James becomes a believer. Jesus becomes the Lord of James's life. So those of you with siblings, what would your brother or sister have to do for you to think they were the Lord of your life? Right? Just think about that real quick. Like, what would they have to do that you're like, that's it, my whole life is under, and that happens. James becomes the pastor of the church in Jerusalem, and he writes this letter. It's very practical. People quite enjoy this letter because it's kind of hands-on. He writes this letter, and he begins, we're going to be in James 1, chapter 1, verse 13. Here's what he says. It's on the screen. Talking about temptation. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. So clearly there was something going on in people's lives. They were wrestling with what was happening around them. And let's just define temptation real quick. So temptation can be a craving for what you know will cost you. Does that definition make sense? Like, I want this thing. I want this relationship. I want this opportunity. I want this choice and what it's going to give me. And I kind of know it's going to cost me something, but I want it so much. I'm willing, or maybe another way to say it is, it's wanting something that you know will hurt you or someone you love later. The Greek word for temptation, because when you hear temptation, it's like a bad eye, feels bad, right? Like temptation's bad. The Greek word for temptation is neutral. It's got two outcomes. It can either be good or it can produce good or bad. So how you handle temptation can grow you or deceive you would be an important way to think about temptation as it relates to this conversation James has. He's not saying there's a bad thing in your life, fix it. He's going, there's a thing in your life. How you handle it is going to make a huge difference about how you live out gratitude and generosity, which we'll get to. So let's go back to the text real quick. James 1:13. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. And I was thinking, like, what's James getting at here? James is, in essence, saying, when life doesn't go the way it should, no one should say, man, God's just against me. He doesn't seem to care about me or my desires or my heart. Maybe God's messing with me. It's like the universe is messing with me. It's like no matter what I try to do, the deck is stacked against me. You know that phrase? Like the deck is stacked against me. That's apparently going on. And James is going, hold on, let's slow down a little bit, because blaming God for what's happening in your life has a few drawbacks to it. It can be dangerous in your growth. It can short circuit your growth. When you start to say it's his fault, and here's the interesting thing. All of your lives are different, right? So there's a group in here who could probably have a better argument to say God is against them. I don't know what your story is, but it's probably painful and difficult. And then there's another group in here who probably really shouldn't be able to say God is against them. Their life's been charmed and kind of good, and yet we all end up in the same bucket where we wrestle with difficulties in life the same way. We feel a bit like it's unfair. And we can blame God. And what happens is, I'm not like a counselor, right? But we short circuit our growth and we ignore obvious patterns that are there and how we deal with real difficult things. The patterns show up. We always go about it the same way. We go back to the same kind of relationship, or we kind of medicate through the same approach. We go back to it and we're like, yeah, but the pattern's just a thing. God's to blame. James is like, no. Let's talk about this, because that warps the idea of who God is. Is God a good father? Is God a loving God? Or is God kind of like, any of you have like an inconsistent father? One that you don't know when he was going to be angry or happy? You don't know why or what, and you kind of go, God's like that. God's just, whatever mood he's in. And then it breeds resentment. It is really hard to trust God when you suspect that he's the one sabotaging your life. So James goes, hold on, everybody. Let me kind of give you a framework into what's happening in our hearts. Verse 14, he says, each person is tempted when they're dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. If I could put this in a phrase, if only. Do any of you have an if only in your life? Like, if only they would have, or if only they would not have, then I would. See, and we put that pattern together. If my circumstances changed, then this wouldn't be happening in my life. And James, I've admitted here, I'm not much of a fisher person. I don't fish much. Okay, but James is totally using bait fish language. Okay, he's laying it out there. He's going, you are caught and you're dragged away and you're enticed. Like, you don't fall into sin like it's an accident, right? You swim towards it. I had a chance to go fly fishing on the Oahe. Someone paid for me to go. I had a guide. He stood right next to me the whole time and untangled my line over and over and over. I had the little waders on. We drove like 2 hours out in the middle of the desert to get there, and we climb in this beautiful stretch of river, right? And people are catching trout everywhere, and I'm doing I'm trying to cast my thing. It's getting tangled up, and I apologize to all the fly fisher folks out there for what I just did this. But here's what happens. I look down, and there's all these trout swimming at my feet. So I grab my line, my hand, and I start doing this down at my feet, right? Now, those of you who fish understand how ridiculous this is. But here's what's really interesting. They were totally into it. I started catching some trout, right? I'm like, this fishing thing's so easy. And I started thinking about that. And here's the deal. If you know about this type of fishing, maybe it's not always like this, but you catch them, and then you hold them up, and you smile, and then you put them back in the water. You don't cook them, clean them, or eat them. It's the weirdest thing in my mind from how I grew up. So I picture the fish go back in the water, right? And the other fish are like, dude, what happened to you? And he goes, crazy thing. This water's dangerous. And the current, I was just minding my own business, and the current just pushed me into that little fake fly, and I bit it. And then that guy was holding me, and we took a picture, and he put me back. I think about this, and I go, that's kind of the language James is using. Like, the rest of the fish would be like, no, dude, you know you're always chasing after the bait. You know you're always going after those flies. And every time the same thing happens. James says, each person is tempted when they're dragged away by their own evil desire and they're enticed. They swim toward it, their eye sees it and they want it. They sniff the bait, they take the hook, and then they act shocked when the pattern of what's happening in our life repeats itself. We blame the water, we blame the current, and James says, the problem's us. One author says it this way: the sin within you is more dangerous than the sin around you. And you might not have a definition of sin, so I'll give you a Christian definition to work with. The idea begins with that we in our hearts rebel against God. And there's a lot of reasons we do that, but the ultimate reason is pride and control over our lives. We rebel against God. It's natural to us. It's called sin. It's like in the water, all right? And when we rebel against God, something happens to us. We kind of rebel against ourselves. The person you look at in your life, there's just stuff you don't like about them. You might even hate them or loathe them at times, like yourself. It's just this, and that's wild because you're like, You're made in the image of God. Yet you loathe yourself. And then that sin, rebelling against God, which leads to this rebellion against yourself, well, it goes its natural place against the people you love. Your friends, your family, your neighbors, grandparents, cousins. It's just you find this. And then, of course, it goes out to your enemies, those people that you hate. And even this beautiful world around us, you stop seeing it as a gift from God, and you see it as a place for you to get what you want out of, right? So that would be like maybe a way to think about what sin is. It begins with rebellion against God. Paul Tripp says the sin within you is more dangerous than the sin around you. It's not the current. It's not the water. It's your desire for the hook. That's the problem we keep running into here. There's another, around the turn of the 19th century, there was an author named G.K. Chesterton, fascinating character. And G.K. Chesterton was like a leading Christian thinker and was close friends with the leading atheist thinkers of the day. They would get together and they would talk. And a local newspaper put out a request to the great thinkers of the time. Would you please tell us what's wrong with the world? And all these essays got turned in. And they were long and beautiful. And people explained everything that was wrong with the world. And then Chesterton submitted his, and here was his essay. Dear sirs, I am truly G.K. Chesterton. What's wrong with the world? It's me. I'm the problem, it's me. Right? It's the deceit inside that betrays us first. It's the deceit inside that betrays us first. That's what James teaches us about the fish and the hook. And then he gives us a very real life kind of flow. You might think it feels very spiritual, but I contend it's just like real life. He says, then after desire has conceived, so it starts with a desire, you're in the water, the current, it's all there, and you start to want that thing. After desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin, right? That brokenness, that rebellion starts to find its way. And sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. But this is not death like you die. People die, we die. It's the sad reality of our mortal experience, of our human experience. This is not what makes you die, that you decided to be tempted by something. But you experience death in this life. And I don't know that I have to explain what that looks like to you, because most of you could tell me. You could tell me what it is. You've seen it at work. You've seen it in the news. You've seen it in your own home. You feel it in your own heart. The process might look like this. Desire is there, and it's not bad. There's no point where it's like the good Christian life is get rid of all desire. Desire is part of our lives. But that desire can give birth to deceit, and that's where the problem comes in. And deceit leads to decisions, and those decisions coming out of deceit are not good for us. Got to stick with the D word, so detriment, right? And that can lead to death. Death in the quality of our relationships, death in our experience of joy and happiness, death in how we experience purpose. So think about it like this. It's not death that comes with like an urn or a casket. That's obvious, right? This could be death that comes just in a calendar that you can't get control of, and it's running your life. Or death that comes in a social media stream that you can't get out of, and it's affecting all of your joy and your relationships. And here's what James says. His solution is really interesting. Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. I love this language. In these letters they write, this is like, do you have a good friend, someone you care about? And have you ever had to say something to them important that you weren't sure they wanted to hear? Maybe it's someone in your family or a sister or brother you grew up with, or it's a close friend, a cousin. Maybe it's a neighbor you've gotten really close with, and you go, I got to have this conversation. James's heart, and it's we have a hard time with this idea that the conflict can be loving. But James's heart is like, don't be deceived. That's really hard. Don't be deceived. And then this, my dear brothers and sisters, this isn't like a open-faced compliment sandwich, okay? This is like I love you. You're my family. I don't want you to be deceived. I don't want to be deceived. I don't want you to be deceived. James says, don't be deceived, my family. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly gifts, who does not change like shifting shadows. I don't know how often in your life you think about where the good things in life come from. I don't think about it that often. I just take them for granted. And James is saying there's a posture of your heart and mind that's going to save you from deception. It's going to be the easy deception you'll fall into, and here's the way out. Every good and perfect gift. Notice the shift towards gratitude a little bit. Don't be deceived. There's good stuff, and it comes from a God who loves you, from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. And what I see James say is, hey, here's how we can relate to God. It seems like there's this awareness that if we believe God is the problem in this life, it breaks our heart in the wrong direction. I think the human heart breaks. The directionality is really important. We believe God's at the center of, or the absence of God is at the center of what's going on in our lives. It breaks our heart in the wrong direction. And gratitude makes space in our hearts to begin to see that differently, to not be deceived. And so in some ways, James would say, you're deceived when you miss out on how good God has made this life. We're deceived when we're ungrateful towards God. Now, this feels like a super pastory line to say, right? Okay, I'm like a Christian pastor, so what should I tell all of you? I don't know what you believe or what you think, so I should tell you that if you're not thankful to God, you're ungrateful, right? Let's pull that back just a little bit. Yes, that is true, according to James, and that has been my experience as a follower of Christ. But we have to find our way into this. We have to wrestle with this idea that I am deceived when I don't see the good things in this life as a gift from God. Let's think about who James's audience was. First century, antiquity, followers of Jesus. There are very few followers of Jesus. It's not like today where there's churches all over the place and people go and gather at a church on Sundays. Okay, so they are looked down on. They're already poor. They have no influence. Employment is hard. They can't save a penny. They're not sure about what kind of life their kids or their grandkids are going to have. Because they've now become Christians, the likelihood of anything good coming has gotten worse for them. All right, because Rome is not interested in them, and Jerusalem is not interested in them. And there they are. And if there's any group of people whose children rarely make it out of the first year of life, who watch their sons and their daughters, I talked about this a few weeks back, who go fishing on a weekend. Grandpa goes fishing with the grandkids. They go to the Sea of Galilee, and they catch a good catch of fish, and they're coming into town, and they come to a tax collecting booth. And the tax collector says, what do you have there? And he's like, oh, I got some fish for a family festival tonight, a family dinner. And the tax collector says, give me 3/4 of them. And the man says, oh, but this is for my family. And the tax collector just reaches across and punches Grandpa in front of the grandkids and says, it's going to get worse for you if you don't give me all your fish. That was their life, you guys. That's where they lived. If there was a group of people who could have got this letter from James and gone, no thanks, and yet James leans into them. I share that to go, I think we're without excuse too. Because whatever we're encountering, they encountered. We have that in common. It's a human experience. They probably encountered it to a greater degree. That's not to diminish the suffering or the trauma or the difficulty you're carrying, because that is real for you. That's what you have in your life. But stick with that early church who leaned into James's letter, who leaned into these words. And I think about how this plays out. And we'll kind of give a picture to it and we'll wrap this up. Anyone ever seen a toddler before? Or have a toddler? If there are any toddlers in the room, they won't understand what I'm about. A toddler is a small child, right? Toddler. And here's the thing. If you have a toddler, you've been at a restaurant with a toddler or at a park with a toddler, and they're thirsty, and you're their parent, what do you bring them? A sippy cup. The blue sippy cup. You give them the blue sippy cup, and they throw it, and they scream at you, and you don't know what to say. Bring me something else. And so you go, okay, I'll bring you the orange sippy cup. You bring them the orange sippy cup. It's got the same juice in it. And they take it, and they sip it, and they throw it down, and they start screaming. And you watch this toddler. They can't communicate. Nothing can satisfy what they want or need because they can't communicate it. And James, I think he's going like, oh, adults, we're kind of just like toddlers with a bigger vocabulary and more money. We can't communicate what we want or need. So anytime we get the blue sippy cup with the juice, we don't see it as a gift. We see it as a problem. Read my mind and give me what I need. Well, here's the good news. Gratitude to God is what frees us from this. We get to grow up. We get to be thankful for whatever it is that's put in our hands. And here's how it frees us. I was talking to my wife, who's sitting a few rows back, about this today. I have tried this all week, and I have felt so stupid. Like, honestly, like literally, that's the word I need to use. I've just felt like, as a human being, like I'm ridiculous. I've tried this practice. If only they would blank, shifting that to God, I'm so thankful they blank. Right? So it could be something really, really little. If only they would put their dishes in the dishwasher after they ate something. How many times have I said that? To God, I'm so thankful we have a dishwasher. And once it's loaded, it can run. Okay, that sounds ridiculous. I am practicing being ridiculous. I want us to not be deceived. I want us to not miss how important gratitude is. That there's probably not a faith that following Jesus that does not include and even start with a life of gratitude. So you can have Bible reading, you can have scripture memorization, you can serve people, you can do all the things. But if your heart is not seeing every good and perfect gift is coming from your Father of lights, if you find yourself more often than not saying, if only they would. So I had some examples I just wrote down thinking through this. These are not specific to my life or your life. Okay, let's say with someone you love, like with a partner or a spouse, if only they would put their phone away at dinner. You probably have a relationship like that. And you're a little frustrated. It's always there. They get on it a lot. And you feel that. Now, what I'm saying is not that you just go, who cares? Yay, I'm happy. Now, here's a little song I wrote. I'd like to sing it note for note. Don't worry. Boop, 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 boop. Be happy. Like that's not what I'm saying to you, all right? That song was for free. What I'm saying is you can control something here. And it's a weird type of control. You can just give thanks for every good and perfect gift. And if you don't think you have any good and perfect gifts, boy, you're ready to have your mind blown. So you start with, I wish they would put their phone away at dinner. And then you go, I'll have that conversation with them. God, I'm so thankful for how they love me and they called me to check in on that work meeting I had today. They didn't have to do that. No one has to care about me, but they did. My self-image. If only I were more fit or had more followers like the people in my feed, then I'd probably feel okay. God, I'm thankful that I've got 2 eyes that can read my feed, or 1 eye that can read my feed. Maybe I shouldn't read it so much or watch it so much. If only I had 1 more zero in my bank account or in my Venmo, that would be enough. God, I'm so thankful that I was able to pay the rent last month. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it this month, but I'm thankful I get to try. Thankful I get to get up and go to work. I'm thankful that there's organizations in town that will try to help me with that. I'm thankful that there's resources. And this is the type of ridiculous James was calling people into. People who would pass the tax collector booth and have all their fish taken away from a good day with their grandkids. God, I'm so thankful I got to have this day with my grandkids, even though all of our fish were taken. And even though I got punched in the face in front of them. Thank you for letting me have this day with my grandkids. If you have kids, if only my kids would hang their towels up after they showered. All right? Shift that to, I'm talking to you right now. Shift that to, God, I'm so thankful that I've got this wonderful 18-year-old son who's going to start at Boise State in the fall, and I get to watch him grow up and become a man. Yeah, I hope he will hang his towel up at some point, but I'm not going to make that my main thing. It's just the game. I've been trying to play this game all week, and I see value. So Ignatius of Loyola says it this way. It says, gratitude is the first, most important step on the spiritual journey. If he's right, then the stakes are really high. Our pathway to the discipline and the habit of generosity is going to find itself come alive through a small daily habit of ongoing gratitude. Thomas Aquinas says it this way: the essence of real religion is gratitude. I think I kind of get this, right? I've shared this before. I wanted braces when I was growing up. So Billy Idol was a big deal. Artist Billy Idol, some of you know him, just a rebel yell, nice day for a white wedding type thing. I cut my hair short, bleached it. It was orange, not blonde because of how I bleached it. And I was in 6th grade, cut the sleeves off my shirt, went in front of the mirror and tried to get this side of my lip up, because that's how Billy did his thing, right? I just thought, I want to be like Billy Idol, but I noticed something when I did that. I had this big gap between my 2 front teeth. All right, I needed braces. This was before we all got braces and Invisalign. okay? But I'm from the 1900s, right? Different time. And so what unfolds is I go to my mom. We had no money. And I say, Mom, I need braces. I didn't tell her so I could do my Billy Idol face. I was just like, I need braces because every time I try to curl my lip up, this big gap shows up in my teeth. And my friends don't have that. And my mom was like, you have to ask your dad. I didn't see my dad a lot, so when I went to see my dad, he didn't have money either. I don't think we had dental insurance that I was aware of. I don't want to tell you the first time I went to a dentist. And I go to my dad, I say, Dad, I need braces. And my dad taught, it's one of the most enduring lessons he's taught me. He looked at me and goes, why? He goes, look at your teeth. Those are DeVita's teeth. That's what he said to me. He's like, any guy can have straight teeth. But those are DeVita's teeth. You don't want, he said it to me like they were special teeth. Like I had just two big front teeth with a gap in them. And my dad had that too. And in some ways he was saying to me, what my Heavenly Father wants me to see is like, man, open your eyes. There is so much to be grateful for. I bought what my dad was selling. My wisdom teeth came and eventually solved the problem a little bit. But gratitude to God frees us from deception. It really does. So, we're going to play a game. We made a game for you to head home with to kick off this series today. Some of you grew up in a church tradition where this dice in church is not good, but we're going to give you a dice game today, okay? And here's how it works. If you're single, take this home. You may have to play it by yourself. That's okay. Or call someone up and be like, it's game time, right? Here's how the game works. Each family, please take one of these. We didn't make a million, okay? Each family take one. And on the back, you roll the dice. If you get a 1, you do this. It's the very like Jesus part of this. You read this Bible verse out loud. Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. You just read it out loud. I've just tried this myself a little bit this week. You feel really silly after you roll a 1 a couple times. You're like, can I get a 2 or a 3? But if you roll a 1, just do 1. That's how the game works. You don't get to invent your own rules right now, okay? If you Google the game, that's what you'll find, okay? Then if you roll a 2, a 3, or a 4, here's what you do. Roll a 2. Who is one person you're thankful for today and why? I want you to play this game every day, maybe a couple times a day. What is a challenge you face that taught you something valuable? What is one thing about yourself that you're grateful for and why? And then if you roll a 5 or a 6, what is one thing you take for granted but are grateful for today and why? What is a moment from today or the past that makes you smile? Now, some of you are not followers of Jesus and you can still engage with this because gratitude is a gift for all of us. And I hope that gratitude leads you to see how good God is and leads you to see the gift that Jesus Christ is. All right, but everybody gets to play. And I think we play this for 5 weeks. Play this every day. Some of you have college kids. Some of you have adult family coming into town. Pull it out at dinner and be like, it's game time, and then get your die and roll it, and everybody goes through and everybody shares. Please, as you leave today, take one of these with you. It'll help the whole series kind of have a tangible practice for us. We'll have volunteers by the doors as you go with baskets. You can take one there. That's going to kind of set up where we head into this, where we explore how gratitude can radically reshape our hearts, can help us follow Jesus, can help us love our neighbors, can help us reach and care for the next generation. Really, at the end of the day, gratitude can invite us into a more generous way of living, regardless of the current or the water that we're living in. It invites us to a way of living. So I want to give you a thought to close on, then we're going to share communion together. Let's take a moment and reflect on these.
Can't budge the Milky Way when the lights are gone and my friends move on. You love me. I built my kingdom high, a Babel of modern day. I lost the throne I built on my own. You love me just the same. This is my repentance. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm coming home. This is my repentance.